Welcome into the Hard Count. We are live in living color as we typically would be on a Tuesday or a Thursday. Going to do it for you on a Wednesday right now because Nick and I were actually in the air this time yesterday when we would have typically been on air. So we're in the air, we would have been on air. But man, lots to talk about. A lot of people now are starting to transition out, doing their wrap-up of the college football season that was and sort of taking their time to get ready for vacation, not us here on the Hard Count. We were just in L.A., we're on hand for the absolute beatdown that was Georgia and TCU. We got some more thoughts on that in a second here. But I promise you, we have got a ton more content coming for you the rest of this season. The games are finished, but college football season is a year-round thing. So we get to cover it accordingly. Make sure you're locked in with us. But golly, it is not as warm as they would lead you to believe it is in L.A. They tell you it's sunny and 75 year-round. Folks, that game was indoors, quote-unquote. This past Tuesday, I guess it was. No, Monday. Got the days all mixed up. This past Monday, it was indoors. There was still rain coming in with the open-air kind of stadium it was. It was cold. And for a lot of the folks there that weren't watching their Georgia Bulldogs, if you're rooting for the TCU program, it was a rough day. Not just because of what happened on the field, because it was cold, it was miserable. Like I said, we're going to talk a lot about that one. Going to break that one down for you and give you our final thoughts on the game that was, national title that was, rather. Also, Spencer Rattler is contributing to Leonardo DiCaprio's season, saying, I'm not leaving, running it back another year in Columbia. What does it mean for South Carolina? Because Beamer ball, in my opinion, is continuing to trend upward. If you've got money to invest in the college football stock market, Beamer ball might be a good place to put your dollars and cents. Let's take an honest look at Nebraska. It's a program where we have a lot of you that are interested in the Cornhusker program, and we appreciate you for that. Matt Rule is doing a complete reconstruction of what you believe your program is in Nebraska. He's doing a complete overhaul of the team in Lincoln. So I want to talk about maybe the perception that we have right now of that team, but also just give you an honest look. Because right now there's a lot of overreaction with Matt Rule's going to win a national title in year one. Or maybe it's, oh my gosh, we made the wrong hire, or this program's in shambles. Let's just take an honest look. This is the time of year we have to do that and kind of get all on the same page for what Nebraska football is right now, what we believe they can be in 2023, and beyond that with Matt Rule. And then finally, you can tell we've been on the road. Voice giving out there a little bit. Finally, Georgia went back-to-back, the first time it's ever happened in the college football playoff era. But here's the scary part. Pretty young team. Schedule was pretty manageable. They lose Stetson Bennett, but they got a lot of other key pieces coming back. Are they lined up for a three-peat? Going to talk about that one. And at the end of the show, you know how we do it here. You join the party, went to Twitter. Again, follow me on Twitter and on Instagram because that's how we're crowdsourcing these now. It's just more efficient, and it's better for us to have those teed up and have a visual for you. Had some questions via my Twitter page, at JD Pickell. Going to answer those in its entirety. Again, Nick Brake, the keeper of the Q, heavy lifter extraordinaire, man, the myth, the legend, doing everything you see here. But again, this is your show. This is your party, all right? So we keep it rolling. It's not fun to do it, but we have to talk about it. Georgia 65, TCU 7, and a lot of the sentiments after that game across living rooms all across this great nation was, what did we just watch? It's supposed to be the national title game. It's supposed to be the two best teams in America going at it for all the marbles, and it was 58-point victory by the Dogs. What's going on here? There's a lot of pieces to this, but let's start with the gameplay itself. And this isn't novel, but it was just pure dominance. Was in a group chat with some buddies, and one of the texts said for TCU, hey, it's getting late. It's getting late early in the first quarter, meaning TCU was very much so on the ropes in the very early going of that game. Now, Nick Brake and I got to be on the field at the beginning of this game, like pregame rather, not the game itself, but pregame, and a lot of the TCU players warming up in T-shirts that read, get off the ropes. And so TCU was on the ropes early, wasn't able to ever really get off the ropes, but that to me just tells me that their psyche was very much in a place where we're going to have to go 4 rounds with this team. I mean, we're going to have to go all 4 quarters with the Dogs. We know we have the heavyweight champ in front of us. We got to swing. And as bad as the final score was, watching that game, in the first 2 drives, there were a couple of plays that TCU left on the field. There was one specifically, I believe it was the first drive. Max Duggan breaks contain. He rolls out to his right. He's looking downfield, and you got a wide open, I believe it was Savion Banks, was wide open downfield, overshoots him. And that was one of our talking points going into the game. When money is on the table against this Georgia team, you have to take all of it. Now, here's the thing. That wasn't a 58-point play. I don't know that would have made the difference, but maybe it makes the margin a little bit more respectable because it was just dominance from Georgia. I mean, they came out swinging like we told you they would. Stetson Bennett was dealing, had just an absolute storybook kind of night. 18 for 25, 300 yards, 4 touchdowns passing, 2 rushing. Had himself a day at the office passing out T-shirts and juice boxes at the end of the day, like just a clinic he put on for the TCU Horned Frogs. Like, he just had the game of his career. And people asked him after the game in the press conference, said, was that the best game you ever played? It's like, I don't know, but we're national champs, which was a very Stetson Bennett and very fitting Georgia answer for what they did that night. They also went right at TCU defensively. And a lot of it felt like this was the kind of game we expected Michigan to play because we've talked about it all week, the 3-3-5 and, you know, the lighter box potentially for what TCU would play. They have less big bodies. It's more built to stop the speed element of an offense. And Georgia just lined up, went right at them. They didn't try and get cute. They weren't running Philly special on 4th and goal. They weren't throwing the screen out there when they had short yardage. They attacked the physicality of TCU. And again, that's what we thought Michigan might do. It wasn't, and maybe in hindsight, what they should have done. Hindsight's 20/20, but it was a lot of power scheme. And the reason why I want to hit on this is because all week long we said the big human beings of Georgia have a very good chance to be the difference maker in this game. And the way those big human beings get to have the most impact on the game is when you call plays for those big human beings. Now, what do I mean by that? In the power scheme, you are telling one of your linemen, typically the guard, to pull. So he's getting ahead of steam, running from one side of the line to the other, and your running back is following him. And I'm just saying, when you get a big man, get some momentum, come downhill at you, it's not a good story for the defense. And with how vicious those guys are on the offensive line for Georgia, it wears on a team. It wears on the team to a tune of 254 yards and 6 yards a carry. It was domination in every sense of the word. Offensively for TCU, a team that scored 40 points a game up to this point in the year, the team speed for Georgia, I think, was just the equalizer. Because so much of what Sonny Dykes does offensively is misdirection and getting the defense running sideline to sideline. It's hard to run sideline to sideline when you don't have the speed element. You don't have the speed favoring your offense. I mean, we saw Darius Davis get around the corner, and all we saw was Javon Bullard come right up behind him and strip that football out. That was speed TCU hadn't seen all year long. And I don't want to dunk on the Big 12. I'm not dunking on TCU. I think Georgia is in a class all its own defensively. What they brought to the table that night was just the way that it was going to shake out. Again, I don't think a whole lot less of TCU. We got the matchup we got because of the way the playoff happened. Not the way the playoff works, the way the playoff happened. TCU beat Michigan in 4 quarters of football. It was a game we got. But again, I don't think it would have mattered who showed up that day. It was Georgia's game. If you haven't yet subscribed, we got you. A lot of outlets, a lot of different programs starting to now transition out of college football season. Not us. We got you. 12 months out of the year. College football is a 12-month-a-year sport. We get to cover it accordingly. So thank you for that. Also, follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at JDPakeldasave with every single thing that we're doing here. Want to incorporate you into this show as much as possible. All right, so thank you for that. So, like I said, this game plan rather for Georgia looked a lot like I think we had perceived Michigan would play TCU. Line it up, offensive line, go to work on that 3-3-5. Smash fest, like J.J. McCarthy said. That's what we expected to see. We didn't, and we got this matchup. There's a lot of people today saying, man, how did the committee put TCU in? Man, how did it happen this way? Why did we get this matchup? I'll just say this. Do not blame the committee. Do not blame the committee for calling TCU one of the best 4 teams. Because remember on Selection Sunday, the narrative across all circles was, if the committee doesn't put TCU in, that would be the biggest bunch of bias I'd ever seen. It's SEC bias if they don't put TCU in, right? Okay, well, TCU got in. And then 13.5-point favorite were the Dogs. 90% of the money, last I checked, 90% of the money was leaning towards TCU plus 13.5. That stat may not have held, but that was what it opened at. That was the way the money came in the first few days. I'm sure it evened out a little bit, but you hear what I'm saying. A lot of people were cashing that plus 13.5 ticket for TCU. So everybody going into this game felt pretty good about TCU, at least keeping it close. That was the perception, right? Here's who you can blame. You can blame Michigan for throwing 2 pick sixes and letting TCU win that game, or hurting themselves in that game, that is. Blame Ohio State. They had Georgia on the ropes. You could blame Ohio State for not finishing the deal. They were up on the champs, and they did not get it done. Shoot, had a field goal to win the deal. As the ball dropped in New York City, you had a field goal to send yourself to the national title game. I have a hard time believing Ohio State wouldn't have handled TCU based on what we saw. You can blame Clemson for not beating South Carolina. Remember, Clemson was a team that was very, very close to getting into the playoff if they had handled business the last week of the regular season. Blame Tennessee for not beating South Carolina. You hear what I'm saying here? The way this whole thing shook out, there was a ton of other programs that had a chance in the late part of the season, last couple weeks of the season. They could have found themselves in the dance, and they didn't. And for that reason, they allowed a team that did take care of business the duration of the year, the entire regular season, in TCU, who then lost you allowed them the margin of error to then lose their conference championship game and get into the playoff. If you're upset about the matchup, blame the other teams. Don't blame TCU. Meritocracy is a beautiful thing. It's why we love college football. It's why a lot of us love the playoff standard right now and the playoff format right now. Do not blame TCU for the game that we got. Okay? Now, the question could be posed. Would somebody else have made the game more competitive? Sure. Alabama, on paper, they match up better. Ohio State, shoot, if you ran it back, who knows what happens that second game? Especially with a healthy Marvin Harrison Jr., who knows, man? Those matchups both could have been more appealing to the eye. It's not the way it works. The minute you start talking to me about TV product or about ratings or about anything that doesn't have to do with crowning the most deserving team in college football as national champion, you've lost my attention. I'm sorry, because this game isn't about ratings, contrary to popular belief. The game itself is about the game. I'm all here for ratings. I have a job because of the ratings. I have a job because of the demand for college football content and the demand for college football talking and consumption, all that. I mean, that, don't get it twisted, that pays the bills for me. But that's not what this thing is about. It's not what it's about when you line it up and blow the whistle, okay? So, at the end of the day, I'm not faulting TCU for getting to this stage. You can fault them for what they did on the stage. You can fault them for laying an egg and playing one of the worst games of the season for them. But I don't fault TCU for being in the dance. I'll leave it at that. But again, Georgia goes back to back. 65-7 was the final. And who knows? Could be up for a three-peat here very, very soon. But again, Georgia, national champs. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And Nick Brake and I were on the road for 4-ish days, and it was just unbelievable seeing. All the folks at the college football playoff were phenomenal. A lot of other outlets were there covering it. They did a great job. Very, very fun. And again, thank you to y'all for allowing us to be there to do this. It wasn't just a foregone conclusion at the beginning of the year that Nick Brake and I would be there. It wasn't just something that we had penciled out the entire year. It was something that y'all allowed us to go to. So thank you so much for that. All right. Little electrolytes for those of you listening on podcast, as we typically do. But the party rolls on. Spencer Rattler is taking part in Leo DiCaprio's season, said, I'm not leaving. He's going to come back for another year at South Carolina, be the starting quarterback. This is a big deal. This is a very, very big deal for a lot of reasons, because they finished the regular season as one of the hottest teams in college football. They beat not one, but two top 10 teams in Clemson and Tennessee in back-to-back weeks. They were double-digit underdogs both weeks. They said, no problem, we got you. And Spencer Rattler played some of his best football of the entire year towards the end of the year. So, if we're trusting trends, the Spencer Rattler stock is starting to trend upward, okay? And we saw a lot of what we had hoped we would see from him since he played in that New Year's Six bowl game against Florida. Like, we started to see him look a little bit more like the advertisement of Spencer Rattler. So what does it mean? Couple of things. First, you got stability on offense. And I understand. New offensive coordinator. Dow Logan's going to come in from the NFL ranks. He's going to call the offense. Marcus Satterfield has gone to Nebraska. So that's a little bit different. But this will be the first time since Shane Beamer has been the head coach at South Carolina where he will have a returning starting quarterback. That means something, especially with how I anticipate them to call this offense as a pro-style offense. Everything goes through the QB. It's not going to be let's manage the game, let's hand it off, let's let the game kind of come to him. There might be some things they have in play there that make his job easier, but make no mistake about it. South Carolina in 2023 is going to let Spencer Rattler cook. And they should, because when they let him cook these last 2 games of the year, it wasn't because it was the game plan all along, but because they had to. They had a lot of things around him that weren't built out to succeed. They had a tight end playing running back. Okay, anytime you got a tight end playing running back, you ask more of your quarterback. Okay, you hear what I'm saying here? To get more production offensively, and he delivered on that. So now the task is, can you bottle up what you had those last 2 games of the year and take that to a new system and amplify that? Can you elevate your game from that game plan, if that makes sense, with the new OC? So the work is still very much cut out for them, but here's another thing. Spencer Rattler coming back came, I believe it was a day or 2 after Juice Wells decided he was coming back. Wide receiver for South Carolina. He was their leading receiver with 68 catches, 928 yards, 6 times touching the paint was Juice Wells. I don't believe it's any coincidence that these 2 are coming back together. I think if Spencer Rattler had said, hey, I'm going to go to the league, Juice Wells would have done the same. So now you have 2 guys that are on a mission that have come back to South Carolina to, yes, help their draft stock, but I promise you, they're not coming back to go 8-5. They're coming back to do something at South Carolina. So Gamecock fans should be very, very excited. I'm fired up to see it. If you haven't yet subscribed, we got you, man. 12-month-a-year sport. We say it all the time. You love it. I love it. They play games only a portion of the year, but college football is a year-round deal. We cover it accordingly. Also, follow me on Twitter and on Instagram, at JD Pickell. The conversation will stop around an hour here on YouTube. Just kind of how it goes. You wouldn't watch an 8-hour show. That would be ridiculous. But I'm always accessible on those platforms. We can have a good back and forth there, hear more of what you want to hear, put more onto the platform on YouTube from interaction there, okay? So here's the other thing this means for South Carolina. Here's the other important piece. There is going to be a second wave of portal movement. We're about done here with this first wave. There's going to be a second window post-spring. So whether guys aren't getting the, what's the right word? They're not getting quite as much production as they believe they're going to get if they go somewhere else, that they're not getting the role they believe they should get and their current team, they don't win the job, whatever it is. A lot of guys, a lot of talented guys, a lot of big-name guys are going to be looking for a home after spring ball concludes. Now, having someone like Spencer Rattler, who can distribute the football effectively and consistently, and he's proven he can do that now, a proven commodity in Spencer Rattler, that's going to attract a lot of guys that want to catch the football or want to play in an offense that's going to score points. Because when you're in the portal, production's a big part of that because you want to help your draft stock. Or you just want to play in an offense where you're going to get involved more. Having a quarterback is like the first domino you need to allow that to be a reality. So Spencer Rattler coming back now makes South Carolina a very attractive location. Here's what they have. An NFL system. So you want to play in the league, you got Dow Loggins, a guy who's been in the NFL. And if scouts watch you on tape playing in an NFL system, they're seeing you do things that they're going to ask you to do at the next level. Box checked. Great. Come play for us. You can do that. Great. Second, the offense flashed late. So going back to if you're buying stock, the most recent sample size is really positive. So you bet on that recent sample size, okay? Third thing, one of the most high-culture head coaches in all of college football. I've said it before. I'm fresh out of eligibility. I played my college football, loved it, time of my life, wouldn't trade it for the world. With that being said, if I had 1 year, if I had 1 game left to play, it would be very difficult to convince me to not commit to Shane Beamer and that program at South Carolina. High energy, loves his guys, white-hot culture. They're winning now. South Carolina, in that way alone, is going to be attractive to a lot of guys. Got a returning quarterback. So that's great. You can have fun with the high energy head coach. It can be an exciting place to play. I mean, Willie B is on fire every other Saturday afternoon. You got the quarterback now. Now, when it comes to a business decision, you have someone there who can make it worth your while. Because receivers, big-time receivers, they're not going somewhere if you don't have a quarterback. Don't care how many NIL dollars you're throwing at them. They're not going there if they don't have someone that's going to help them get to the next level. Same thing can be true with running backs. Same thing can be true with other guys within your program. If you want to win, you need a quarterback. And South Carolina, for 2023, now has their quarterback coming back. So that's great. Fun storyline. The folks in Columbia are juiced. Spencer Rattler Day in South Carolina. That's great. Here's the deal now for South Carolina. You and I both know 7-6, 8-5, they expect more now in South Carolina. You have got the guy in Shane Beamer. You now believe you have the quarterback in Spencer Rattler. Going into the year, a lot of folks had him. I think their number was right around 6.5 games. So if they made a bowl game, hey, good for South Carolina. Now, they are no longer the little engine that could. Nobody's rooting for the little guy of South Carolina anymore. And I promise you, the good folks in Columbia, they don't want it that way. They don't want to be anybody's fun story. Shane Beamer said as much after they beat up, it was either Tennessee or Clemson. He said, we're not just a good story. That's not who we are. They're a good football team. And they will very much be held to that standard this coming year. I believe that mark should be for them right around 9 to 10 wins. I think that's reasonable to go from 7 wins to 8 wins. Get 9 or 10. Because I think with Spencer Rattler at quarterback, if he plays the way he played these last 2 games of the year, there's no reason why that can't happen. Other parts of the program got to step up a little bit more. Defensively, you got to bring more to the table, but you have the quarterback, and that's at least half the battle. So I'm fired up to watch it. I'm fired up to watch South Carolina going forward. Shane Beamer is a friend of the program. I don't know if he even watches our program, but for us here on the program, we're friends with him, if that makes sense. We think he's phenomenal. And I'm fired up, though. Spencer Rattler going back to South Carolina for 1 more year. All right. It's probably an awkward pause here on podcast whenever I go to take a drink, but we're not done, folks. We got more coming for you. Nebraska. It's time. It is time to talk about Nebraska. The Cornhuskers went 4-8 in 2022, and I'll just say this. I was wrong. I was dead wrong. I had picked Nebraska to do some great things. I thought this was the year for him and Scott Frost to get over the hump and make a bowl game, and Casey Thompson's coming in. He's going to light the world on fire. Casey Thompson actually played pretty well when he was in the game. When he was healthy, he was a serviceable quarterback. Scott Frost, however, you know the deal, wasn't the guy. Got fired pretty early on. Enter into the fray, Matt Rule. Was in Carolina for a while, rebuilt Baylor, rebuilt Temple. I think they hit a home run with Matt Rule. And you hear the phrase home run hire thrown around a lot, and that's probably cliche. That's fine. I truly believe they hit a home run in hiring Matt Rule. And I'm not backing down from that statement. But let's just take an honest look. Because anytime you hear the words home run hire, you think, man, year one then, all right? Year one, we're winning the Big Ten. Year one, we're going to Indy. Year one, we're doing all these exciting things. I mean, okay, let's calm down a little bit on that. I think Matt Rule is great, but let's take an honest look at what's going on right now in Lincoln. The first thing is the roster is under construction. You've had 14 transfers out. Probably some of those you're okay to see leave. You've had 8 transfers in. And Matt Rule's been the head coach for 17 minutes. So they're making a case to turn over that roster. Because the reality is they need to get tougher now. That's why Matt Rule was brought in. That's who Nebraska has been when they're really good. And Matt Rule knows that. He knows that they allowed 190 yards a game last year. He knows that they allowed 8.5% of the time of their snaps was a sack. They only rushed for 112 yards. That's the trenches. That's the line of scrimmage. Teams that play important games in December and in January, they win the line of scrimmage. And so Matt Rule is making an effort to revamp that whole operation. He knows that has to get better, both on the recruiting trail, yes, but in the transfer portal. So I promise you, this second wave, post-spring, they're going to take inventory. He can play for us. He can't. He can help us. He can't. Let's go to the portal. They're going to make some more moves on the portal. I promise you. I promise you, whether it's offensive or defensive, I venture to say both. They will acquire at least one more individual in the trenches in the portal. Feel pretty confident saying that. They're also going to add some versatility. They acquired Billy Kemp from Virginia via the portal, 5'9", 170 pounds, proven commodity at receiver. And the reason this is interesting is because Marcus Satterfield said, yeah, we got to inject talent into that wide receiver room, but even more so the versatility piece. Like we just said, look at Clemson. Tons of guys with a lot of stars next to their name. Guys that played in, you name whatever all-star game you want to name from the high school level, they probably played in it. But what has their issue been? What have we been critical of them? A lot of guys that are all kind of just the same mold. 6'4", 6'3". They can go win the jump ball for you, yeah. Can they pop the top on the defense? Can they make that safety have to backpedal? Can they hurt you in space? This is not a dunk on Clemson kind of segment, but I'm telling you, Nebraska understands, hey, we got to have more than just one style of play here. And adding Billy Kemp adds another wrinkle into that. I think they'll still continue to be active in the portal with the receiving core as well. I mean, Josh Fleeks is a guy who I got to see up close and personal. I'll just say this, one of the shiftiest human beings I've ever seen in my life, just in terms of when the ball is in his hands, making people miss in a phone booth, seemed to be his specialty when I was around him. Don't know why it didn't work out at Baylor, but he is a guy that I think could have a huge year in Nebraska. Keep an eye on Josh Fleeks as well as Billy Kemp, both kind of in that jitterbug, smaller frame, great quickness, great agility sort of mold. Before we move further, if you haven't yet subscribed, we'd love to have you at the party. A lot of you Nebraska Cornhusker faithful have joined us this year. We're so glad to have you at the party, man. Also follow me on the socials at JD Piquel on Twitter and on Instagram. So that's the roster. You had a 4-8 roster last year. You understand, we got to revamp that. We have to change that now. Because the way that college football is today, Junior, is when we're expecting some ROI. So they're doing some of that. Also the staff. And this isn't a huge surprise with Matt Rule. This isn't a huge surprise with the way that college football works. But I just want to make sure we get this out there. The way that he is building his staff can be summed up in 2 points. One, he's betting on his people. People that he has a relationship with, people that he has worked with before, people that he trusts. 2, he doesn't care how it looks. He doesn't. I mean, Marcus Satterfield had some criticism around him before the end of the year at South Carolina. He's going to be the offensive coordinator. He doesn't care what you think about him. He trusts him. He worked with him at Baylor. He knows what makes Marcus Satterfield tick. Evan Cooper, secondary coach for Baylor. I believe he coached corners at Baylor, but he's going to be secondary coach for Nebraska, a name that you might not be super familiar with. He doesn't care. Evan Cooper's his guy. He believes in Evan Cooper. He believes in his process. He believes in his people. That's the way that Matt Rule rolls. This is the name that maybe got the most buzz when he got hired. Garrett McGuire, wide receivers coach, was a walk-on quarterback at Baylor, and he's only 23 years old. Okay, so the headline that you're reading is Matt Rule hires 23-year-old wide receiver coach. You dig a little deeper, you say, oh, he's the son of Joey McGuire, head coach of Texas Tech. And so a lot of the Twitter fingers are saying nepotism, he didn't really earn that, whatever. I'll just say this. I got the chance to be around Garrett McGuire. And as a walk-on quarterback, as someone who was undersized, there was not a person in that locker room that anybody respected more. And I'm not just saying like a Rudy kind of respect, like, hey, that guy goes hard. It was, no, when Garrett McGuire speaks, you listen. He had coached in the NFL levels, post-grad. Guy knows football. Football family, football life, now a football coach. He's a rising star in this industry, and I don't feel uncomfortable saying that. I think they got in at the ground level with Garrett McGuire. But again, a guy that Matt Rule trusts, a guy that Matt Rule knows, and he doesn't care that you're worried about the 23-year-old coaching his receivers. He's not worried, okay? Because when they're winning games, when they're going to bowl games, when they're playing for exciting things late in the year, nobody's going to be talking about how old the receiver coach is. Nobody's going to be talking about what Marcus Satterfield did at South Carolina. They're going to be talking about Matt Rule and his process and how interesting the role has, or the ride has been in Nebraska to getting to this point, and we should have hired Matt Rule a long time ago. That's going to be the sentiment, okay? So I want to make sure we say this. You have bought into the process of Matt Rule at Nebraska. You have bought into the process. Now, what does that mean? It means 2023 could look a lot like 4-8, could look a lot like 5-7. Because a process, by definition, is something that takes some time. I don't anticipate this being a 2023 we're playing for the national title. We're playing for the Big Ten title. It could happen that way. Far be it for me to ever say that's not going to be the case. I mean, heck, college football, the variance baked into the sport is why we love it so much. But I'm telling you, it's probably going to take some time. But you didn't hire Matt Rule for success in 2023. You didn't hire Matt Rule to play for big things in 2023. You hired Matt Rule to win the Big Ten in 2025, 2026. That's what you hired him for. So with that being said, enjoy the process. Keep an eye on the details. Keep an eye on who they acquire via the portal. Keep an eye to the message boards. Husker Online, the On3 Nebraska site that we have, is phenomenal. Some of the best folks in the game covering Nebraska. They're going to give you the intel, give you the whispers around different things with spring practice and fall camp. Hey, we do this differently now. We never did that in the Scott Frost era. This is much more detail-oriented. Keep an eye on that, because those little things will eventually add up, and they'll add up in the forms of wins. Now, when that happens, I don't know. But I promise you, this process is proven. It has worked many places. It has rebuilt many a program, Temple and Baylor namely. But in the first year, it might take some time. So with that being said, enjoy the process, trust the process. It's going to be a good time in Nebraska. I promise you. Matt Rule is the guy to get that thing headed in the right direction. Again, from the moment that he was no longer the head coach in Carolina of the Panthers, believed wholeheartedly he was the right guy for the job. So sit tight, trust the process, think things are looking up in Nebraska in the not-too-distant future. All right. One more segment here. We get some of y'all's questions. Again, if you haven't yet submitted a question to us via Twitter, follow me on Twitter at JD Pickell. Also follow me on Instagram at JD Pickell. Those are two mediums we're going to use going forward to incorporate you into the show as much as possible. So thank you in advance for that. The Georgia Bulldogs, they ran it back. The Georgia Bulldogs went back-to-back for the first time ever in the college football playoff era, and the confetti fell. Nick Brake and I were on the field. It was unbelievable. It was an absolute movie of a time. So, so cool. But as it always is, everybody and their mother has to talk about, well, what's the way too early predictions? What's the way too early feel? And to be honest, I'm not a fan of that talk. I think it's ludicrous. I think so much is going to happen via the portal. I think so much is going to happen through spring practice. So much is going to happen still with the coaching carousel. So we don't know for a fact, but when you just look at the independent variables at Georgia right now, as they stand, a three-peat seems fairly reasonable. And Reese Davis told this story on the College Game Day podcast after they had finished the national title game. Kirby Smart's kind of taken a lap and giving his good wishes to the fans that traveled to see that game. It was an incredible game, too, in terms of atmosphere. Volume was cranked through the roof. Beside the point, he throws up a one finger, meaning one national title. Everyone's like, yeah, you got one. Throws up two. Everyone's like, there it is. Went back to back. He might have been playing to the fans, folks, but he threw up a third finger. They asked him about it post-game. How hard will it be to go for a third? Are you already thinking about that? And he just said, it will have even more challenges than we had this year. It is so hard to win 3 in a row, but we can't get complacent. So here's what I would say about Georgia going 3 in a row. They're going to have the roster. Like, talent will never be the reason why Georgia doesn't compete for national titles. That's just not the case with Kirby Smart as the head coach. You lose a lot of key pieces. You lose Stetson Bennett. You lose the safety Smith. He's a dog. You probably lose Darnell Washington. He hasn't declared yet. Neither has Smith, but keep an eye on both those guys. I would imagine they'll probably test the NFL waters, but you got some other freak shows on this team still. Kendall Milton, he's coming back. He already told us. Brock Bowers, going to be a junior. He has to stay one more year. Smile Munden, only a sophomore this year. Jamon Dumas-Johnson, only a sophomore. Javon Bullard, the MVP of the national title game, who put up video game kind of numbers. Played star for Georgia. He's coming back. And oh, by the way, behind those guys that are leaving to the NFL, the guys behind Jalen Carter and all that, they've got guys that are just from a top 3 class. And they haven't had a top 3 class or outside of they haven't had a class outside the top 3 in a really long time, is what I'm trying to tell you. We're going to be generous and say they have folks that are from the 2018 cycle on their roster still. Nobody in that group is a part of a class outside the top 3. So the talent is going to be elite for a long time at Georgia. Even if they didn't play this year, doesn't mean they can't still be very, very good for that program next year. All right? If you haven't yet subscribed, we got you covered here on the On3 YouTube channel. Here on the Hard Count, we go live on Tuesday. We go live on Thursday. We're live today on a Wednesday because we missed Tuesday because we were traveling for a game that you allowed us to go to. So thank you for that. But subscribe, lock in. We have a good time here. We have a good time because it's y'all's show. Also, follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram at JD Piquel. Those are two mediums that we can incorporate to do more of what you want to see. So hit me there, subscribe to the channel, follow me there, and we'll keep the party rolling, all right? So the talent is there. The cupboard is stocked, as we like to say. There's more than enough ingredients to play for another national title, a third in as many years. Look at the road ahead. Here's the schedule for Georgia, and it's very, very manageable. You tell me where the blatant loss is. You have UT Martin, you have Ball State, South Carolina, UAB. I didn't say at with any of those. Those are all home games. Then you go to Auburn, you got Kentucky, go back on the road to Vanderbilt, then you got to bye, play Florida at a neutral site. You got Missouri, you got Ole Miss, you go at Tennessee and at Georgia Tech. I mean, show me the blatant loss there. Tennessee could be tough. I mean, shoot, you don't know what Florida's going to be next year. Ole Miss, who knows? Bottom line, there's no gaping hole in this schedule where you say, yeah, that's probably going to be a loss. Tennessee's going to be really tough. I think Tennessee, at a glance, is going to be the toughest game on their schedule. But there's no Alabama on here. There's no Ohio State on here. There's no game that you're saying, oh, boy, hey, it's going to take our absolute best. It's going to take a superhuman effort to win that game. They'll need their best to beat Tennessee. I don't want us to get sideways on that. Tennessee's going to be a tough game, but the rest of the schedule, it's all very manageable. The road is very clearly marked for Georgia to march right back to Atlanta and to have a chance at another national title. Obviously, SEC title being in Atlanta, but national title in Houston. It's very, very possible, very, very doable. Here's the deal, though. It all revolves around the quarterback position. You got some studs in there. You got Gunnar Stockton, who took off the black jersey this week. For those of you that don't know what that means, he decided, hey, I'm going to take hits for this program. I'm going to go live contact in practice so our defense can get good reps trying to defend Max Duggan. It won't be the first time they go live hitting a quarterback. They'll know what that feels like to chase down a scrambling quarterback and make that tackle. Impressive move by Gunnar Stockton. He's in the program. Brock Vandegrift, another highly recruited quarterback. Carson Beck was who went into action for Georgia in the fourth quarter of that game. He is right now, would feel like the betting favorite to be the starter, but that's going to be enormous. Goes without saying, quarterback, most important position on the field, and they lose Stetson Bennett. And a lot of the Stetson Bennett haters, a lot of the Stetson Bennett naysayers, I think probably got silenced, if not this season, on Monday night. But if you still have some sort of feeling about Stetson Bennett in your stomach, if you still feel like he wasn't all that he's cracked up to be, you're going to find out next year just how important he was to your team. I'm not saying these guys won't be enormously successful. I'm not saying these guys won't still light it up. But I'm just saying it will be a guy who's first year starting in the saddle for Georgia. It's a very big undertaking. But I would also say this. Going into this year, Georgia lost more. They lost 5 first-round draft picks on defense. They lost 15 guys total to the NFL draft. They lost a lot, and all they did was run it back and get another national title. So, you lose the quarterback, that's huge. But losing talent to the NFL, nothing new at Georgia. And personally, I trust Kirby Smart. I trust his process. I trust his way of doing things. And I think Georgia's going to be just fine. So, with that being said, they're our number one to start the year. Ours being us here on the Hard Count, and have no idea what anybody else will put them at. But Georgia will be primed to yet again hunt for another national championship. Should be fun to watch. All right. Now, it's my pleasure, my privilege. We've slept not very much these last 4 days. We've been wheeling and dealing, but welcome in the man, the myth, the legend, heavy lifter extraordinaire, Nick Brake. Nick, how we doing, my guy?
Well, you said it. We haven't slept that much, man. What do we get home? from SoFi Stadium. What do you think? Midnight?
Midnight, 1 o'clock.
1:30.
It's
We left at 4 a.m.
Unbelievable.
Because we wanted to get back here, beautiful city of Nashville. But it's good to be back, JD.
Absolute
really
movie of a time. I would do it again.
Yep, me too.
Again, thank you for allowing us to go there, y'all. Thank you. Nick Brake made it all happen on the road too, y'all. But Nick, what are the good people saying today?
Oh man, we've got some good ones. This one coming from _UTTK17. This is TKT saying Big 12 championship or for Texas, or is it a bust for Sark? 10 of their 11 starters returning on offense. I'm getting cut off a little bit. 6 of 11 on defense. Aranda and Dyke success in 2 years, or this is kind of okay. Dyke success in years 2 and 1.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, my bad, JD. With our talent, every year is frustrated.
Yeah, that's very fair. That's
Sorry,
very no. That's no. I think
that,
no. You hit it on the head there. I mean, Sonny Dykes in year 1 makes national title. Dave Aranda in year 2 wins the Big 12 conference, and Texas fans are sitting there saying, "All right, it's year 3 here. You can do something. We'll win the Big 12." I think it's fair to say that'd be extremely frustrating. Is it Big 12 title or bust? I think so. I think this is the year where it has to happen for Sark, because Arch Manning is going to be on campus, and he's a guy they're going to have for the future. But Quinn Ewers is also on campus. Quinn Ewers is also the starting quarterback. Quinn Ewers is also one of the he is one of the highest, if not the highest rated recruit of all time. So with that being said, the expectations are very, very high. Now, I don't think they fire him next year if they don't win a Big 12 title, but we've talked a lot about kind of giving it some time and eventually letting things bake at Texas. You need to take it out of the oven this time next year. There needs to be some sort of ROI next year, and I think at least making the Big 12 title would be what I would have to say there. Make the Big 12 title. If you win it, amazing. That would get a lot of people off your back. But in terms of, winning the whole thing, we'll see. Make the Big 12 title or bust, though. 100% agree with that.
Okay, JD, next question coming from @DeathStarDestroyer.
Ooh, there you go. That's your guy right there, man.
You know I like that. You saw what I was watching on the airplane. He says, how do you think Dabo's, I guess it's Dabo. What do you say?
Yeah.
Dabo. You say Dabo. Okay, Dabo Swinney's philosophy on not using the portal and how it will affect his place in the ACC. With Florida State owning the portal right now, feels like they're primed to take over.
Yeah, that's
Austin
very, very
Flowers
fair.
has a point, JD.
That's very fair. Death Star Destroyer. Like, he knew what you were talking. He knew what you were watching on the airplane. I would say this: will it happen? I don't know. I very, very much so believe that Clemson is getting to the point where not using the portal is hurting them. And I'll be the first to say I love the culture at Clemson. I think it's special. I think it's second to none. I think it should be protected at all costs. Now, all costs with the caveat of it keeps you from winning football games. And I think there has to be a way for Clemson to protect that culture and still go through their vetting process, but use the portal. Because if they don't, they're going to eventually start to fall behind. And all great coaches adapt. They all adapt. I mean, Saban, look at Saban with his offense. They told him for a long time this isn't going to work. Or they told him this isn't going to work. Not for a long time. But for a long time, the same formula worked. And he had to part with that. He had to part with that ground and pound style of offense and hire in a one-lane Kiffin to call the shots. Did he like doing it? I don't know. But he had to do it. He had to do it to get to where he needed to be, which is winning national titles. And Dabo Swinney has recalibrated the expectations. He has set the bar at such a level in Clemson, South Carolina, where they now expect college football playoff appearances and they expect national titles. And using the portal, I think, is becoming a non-negotiable. Because he's right. Teams in your conference, like Florida State, are making it happen in the portal. Now, do you want to live in the portal? Is that how you want to get by every single season? Of course not. You want to develop, you want to recruit. Look at Georgia. That's how you want to do it. But you need to use the portal to some extent to win national titles, especially when you see holes in your roster. I'd love to see Clemson go out and get themselves a receiver. I think that needs to happen sooner rather than later. So it's my 2 cents. Dabo makes a lot more money than me to make decisions for his football team, but that's how I feel about it, Nick. We got one more in the can here, Nick. Is that right?
One more.
Beautiful.
We've got one
Beautiful.
more.
Beautiful.
This one from Vols fan for life. But this isn't about Tennessee. Is Coach Prime going to build as you say, a program, even spelled it out like you do, JD, at Colorado that's competing for championships every 3 to 5 years or so.
One Vol fan for life, using program. I mean,
that's awesome.
Chef's kiss. That was beautiful. Beautiful execution. Beautiful execution. In 3 to 5 years, I think that's exactly right. Because he's going to kill it in the portal. He's killing it in the portal currently. You got Travis Hunter. He's got some other big-time pieces that are joining him in Boulder, Colorado. The key to this success, the 3 to 5 years, is being able to have proof of concept early. Because Deion Sanders right now has got that first-year benefit of the doubt, and he's got the buzz and excitement about what he did at Jackson State, and everyone is at the very least curious to see what he does. A lot of guys are bought in. A lot of guys are saying, I want to be a part of what you're doing. But if you can start winning some real games, if you can start having 8 to 10 win seasons at Colorado, then you start to produce more and more buy-in. Then people say, okay, he is a really good coach at the FBS level. He is a guy that's built programs. That's not me saying that. I'm telling you the people outside looking in at Colorado, people that might want to go play their college football somewhere. So the 3 to 5 years, I think, is absolutely realistic. I think this 1 to 2 year window will be crucial, and he's doing all the right things, crushing in the portal. I said it before, I think Deion is going to have a lot of success at Colorado, but it has to happen early on to get the momentum rolling, to get the snowball going downhill. Nick, I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you, man. Go get a nap, get some shut-eye, bro, and we'll do this again here real soon.
Okay, we'll see you on Thursday, JD.
Sounds
I guess
good.
that's tomorrow, isn't it?
Tomorrow
okay.
It is.
I forgot the dates. We'll see you tomorrow, JD.
See you, brother. Again, that's Nick Brake, making everything you see here happen. On the road, on the camera, editing, producing, everything. I mean, best in the game. So we appreciate him tremendously. Folks, we appreciate you tremendously. Maybe there'll be a time here in the near future we can talk a little bit more about the LA trip, but that was unbelievable. And like I said, it wasn't written in stone. We were going to do that at the beginning of the year. It was a thing where y'all pushed the needle and y'all allowed us the resources to then make that trip. You pushed the demand is what I'm trying to tell you. You pushed the demand for us to get to LA, and we're very grateful you did. Got a chance to see a lot of y'all out there. From the field even, there were some of y'all saying what's up, and that was unbelievable. We met people in and out. The greatest burger chain in America. I'll fight anybody on that. We saw people there that knew the hard count, and so we're grateful for y'all to continue to grow this and truly believe the best is yet to come. So we are going to attack 2023, all of us together. Nick Brake and I over here on this side and y'all on that side. We're going to get after it. It's going to be a whole lot of fun, and this thing is just getting started. I know that the confetti dropped. I understand that, but you didn't stop caring about college football. We don't stop caring about college football. There's a lot happening, portal, recruiting, coaching carousel. We got you right here, man. So we appreciate y'all again. Thank you for allowing this to be such a special season, and the best is emphatically yet to come. So we're going to keep the party rolling. We will see y'all next time.